Hello.
Hey everyone, welcome to From Home to Hustle. I am your host, Kelly Campbell, and I am so excited to be here today. I am passionate about hearing stories of other stay-at-home moms who are making either supplemental income or passive income or building businesses and ministries without sacrificing their time at home, which is so important. Today's guest is Cassie Hutton. Did I say that right, Hutton?
Yep.
Okay, and let me just read a little bit about Cassie. She is a former school teacher, now homeschooler of her 5 children who she chose to birth at home and raise on their homestead. She loves seeing like-minded women experience their own personal exodus because Jesus radically set her free from years of bondage that gripped her. She mentors Christian women into biblical freedom and physical wellness through a trauma-informed approach so that they can release stuck emotions and reach that breakthrough that they have been longing for through the framework of her Made Whole online membership. Cassie, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited that you're doing this. And we talked a little bit about what this is about and who this is supposed to help. And
Yes.
so I know that it's going to be a blessing for a lot of people.
Yes, and I think too that I've actually known you for a while. I think we actually met inside of a Facebook page years ago, and I think we like commented on each other's posts. You know how you kind of do that, and then it's like, oh, let's be friends. We have something in common, and then we found out that you went to school with my brother, which is
Yep.
so wild. And then we've just kind of stayed connected and friends throughout the years. Yes, like I was saying, that I have a passion to see women who are kind of like the mountain idea, like you're taking territory in the home and now in the marketplace, whether that's ministry, whether that's through business, which to me, business is ministry. It is doing something for the glory of God. So tell us a little bit, like, how did this start for you? I want to hear your journey. I want to hear what led you from point A to point B. All while was this done before you were homeschooling, while you were homeschooling? So I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, it is interesting because I've always had a desire ever since Jesus set me free, right? Like I've had a voice and I knew that God was calling me or audibly heard him say, go share your testimony. And so that was, first and foremost on my mind. However, it was kind of like, well, the doors never really opened for me to share my testimony. So I mean, you kind of think that you're also taught that in the church that, like, well, God will just open doors for you. And I kind of have had to learn, like, well, you kind of also have to open doors for yourself in a sense of like, you actually have to market yourself, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And the church, when you're in a real churchy organization, that almost seems like it's not the right thing to do. However, it's kind of ironic or two-faced if you really think about it, because the church itself has, the four walls of the church markets itself very well. Mind you, many churches market themselves very well. That's how you get mega churches and things like that.
Right.
Um, but I really had to come out of a place, and still am, I will say, because I don't know that I've really gotten far, really deep into this journey. But to answer your question, was I doing this before I started homeschooling? Not really. Not in the way that I'm trying to now. I had written my testimony. I had published it as a book. I loved doing online things. I love posting on Facebook. I love sharing my story, day-to-day story, and things like that. But it wasn't until I had my fourth child and we sold our home. So she was born July 7th, and we sold our home, well, 3 weeks later. So at the end of July, and we were moving. So we were, like, I'm 3 weeks postpartum. This was not a good idea. But
Do not recommend this.
do not do this. And so, I had always recovered postpartum very well. I had no signs of health issues. There were a few things that I realize now during pregnancy that I definitely should have been paying attention to. Like there was probably some hormone fluctuations going on with like, I developed like the spider veins or the varicose veins, things like that that were little but weren't, and so anyways, she's born. We move into this tiny cabin, 1 bedroom cabin, and the plans are, we've already got land, we're going to build, because right here in East Texas, I don't know if it did around your area, but it land skyrocketed here, and so we were able to sell our home, and pay everything off and have cash left over. And so not much cash left over, but still, like we were
Yeah.
able to pay everything off. We had
Yeah.
no bills, and we had this cabin to come to. So it was
Mm.
kind of a brainer for us because we didn't want to stay at the land that we were at for forever. And so we, when I found myself here every day with a newborn, um, I've not always handled the newborn stage very well. I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of, there's lots going on, but you kind of think after your fourth child that, you've got it for the most part figured out. You know what to expect.
Right.
It's still hard, but you know what to expect, so it makes it a little easier. My
Mhm.
boys were older now, and so they can help, and um, but it was not easier. I found myself very burnt out, very depleted. I This is not normal for me, but with
Yeah.
since breastfeeding, I wouldn't get my cycle back till 8, 9, 10 months whenever their nursing started really slowing down and they started eating more solid foods.
Mhm.
But I got my period back 8 months postpartum. And with it, extreme mood swings. And
Yeah.
then 10 weeks, I had another period, and then 12 weeks, and then 14 weeks. And it was just like, what is going on? And with every single cycle, I was just like a basket case. Didn't know why I was crying all the time. I was mad at my body. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? Why are we not working?
Right.
Um, and so she was about 6 months old, and I finally started working with a nutritionist. And 10 months, she's about 10 months old, and I got pregnant again, right as I got a normal cycle back. And so that prolonged my healing period. But through that, I realized that um, when our bodies begin to do that, it's not just that we're not eating and nurturing our bodies properly, it's that we're under extreme stress that we probably don't recognize because we've
Right.
been raised in this culture of stress and go, go all the time. And so I started to recognize that I really, number one, needed to slow down, needed to
Mhm.
reduce my stress, but I really had not pursued my calling that
Mm.
God had put in my life. And that this was also my body's reaction to, you're not finding, I guess, that balance. I kind of don't like to use the word balance because that almost seems like everything should just flow really
Right.
smooth.
It sounds new agey in a way, but yes, there is an ebb and flow that happens in our bodies.
Yeah. And so I really started to recognize the importance of that. And I was
Mhm.
talking to my husband, and I was like, I'm not good at like approaching my husband with like, hey, I really want to do this thing, but it's going to cost a lot of money, and because I'm probably not going to make all that money back,
Right.
at least not right in the get go. But I was like, I need some guidance. Like I don't know really where to start. I had already written this Made Whole Inner Healing course,
Okay.
and I had recorded the trainings in YouTube and put them like in video.
Okay. Wait, really quick on that training, did you go through it yourself?
Um, no, it's since I wrote it, it was just like I guess I did go through it because
Right.
it's the
Out of
yes,
your own personal.
yeah, the keys
Okay.
that like the Lord had given me. And
Okay.
I wrote it with two other women, so like their wisdom is in it as well.
Okay.
And so yeah, he was like, "No, it's fine, like go for it." This was right before I had my fifth. So
Okay.
this was in December, and I probably started working with the business coach in like October.
Okay.
And so there was still a lot to like work out, and there was a lot of things. Actually, when I started working with her, I was working on a birth course, and through working with her, the Lord like revealed to me like, no, go back to the inner healing. This is what
Mm.
you're supposed to do. Make the call. I had a dream, and like that was the word. Like whenever Usually I'll have dreams and I don't get the immediate revelation, or sometimes they're just not even really, but usually when I like talk them out to my husband, or I write them down or say it out loud, it's like revelation comes as I'm like speaking, and I'm like, oh, oh, oh.
Yes.
And so when I heard myself say make the call, I was like, oh, okay, because I was really torn. It's like I kept being pulled back to inner healing, inner healing, inner healing, and I was like, I'm supposed to be writing a birth course. I'm not supposed to, and and in my lane, and I kept feeling this like back and forth. It was causing a lot of like overwhelm too, and I was like, okay, this isn't from the Lord either. This isn't what God has planned for me. Is this because I'm learning something new and my brain is trying to process it, or do I actually have too much on my plate, or is
Mm,
this calling?
right.
And so the Lord made it very clear that that's where I was supposed to go with it.
Okay.
um, and so um, yeah, so that's how I came to where I'm at now.
Wow. One thing I've been learning about inner healing is that it's really foundation for a lot of things, like your relationships, even operating in business, operating in ministry, your marriage, you as a parent. Like inner healing is so foundational. In fact, I find too that, sorry, this is like a segue a little bit of that inner healing because I have been on a journey of inner healing for a few years now, but I realize that it's like an onion that you'll go through certain levels or layers, and you'll have certain things that the Lord or the Holy Spirit will heal, and then time will go by, and then He'll bring something up to you that you didn't realize was like trauma or even forms of like a bitterness or unforgiveness or whatever. And so your course is so needed right now for the mom, the wife, the business owner, um, the friend, the ministry leader. It really is. So, how long is your course?
So it's 7 weeks long. Right now it is. I'm working on pulling in parts of more of the physical healing part, because like what I shared with you, I already had like the main course written before I went through my health struggle. And so or no, I guess I wrote it as I was going through my health struggle. That's actually true.
Mhm.
And I remember I have pictures of her sitting in my lap, and I remember after I had like recorded the videos. Um, and
Wow.
so,
It can
anyway,
be done.
do
It can
what?
be done. It can be done.
Yes, it can
I mean, I
definitely.
don't I don't like recommend like if you're gonna bake to have, your baby nursing while you're cooking and having a hot pot. But if you're sitting there, you're recording these videos while your baby's laying in your lap. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, and she's not in the videos. My mother-in-law did take her, but she was that like she brought her in afterwards, and we took pictures, in.
I just
But I didn't nurse her in between. I guess I pumped in between recording the videos, but
I love that. I actually was about to ask, how did you find time to create these and how long did it take you to create them?
yeah, usually when I really feel like I get something from the Lord, like I am like zoned in, like nothing else matters. We're gonna like get this and like truck through it. However, I've learned that that's probably not the smartest way to do things either, especially when you have a family. It's hard if you have a mindset like that, where you get so hyper focused on something. Like
Yeah,
it's hard, and I think
it
creators
is.
in general
It's
are
You
wired
have to
that
juggle the distractions. I was thinking that it was harder when they were little because I had 4 and 4 years.
way.
And now that I have almost three teenagers and I have an 11-year-old, um, they are a little bit more needy in different ways. And so I do get distracted a lot. And so I have to relearn how to balance that because when they were little, they would just go play, or I can give them a snack, they'd watch a movie, something like that. Now it's mom, like I need you to do this. And mom, we were supposed to do this, and things like that. And so anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do understand the distractions.
Yes, the distractions are huge, because I'm a big person that's like, no, I need to finish this first. Like, let me get finished with this, and then, like
Yes.
then you're constantly trying to finish this thing, but it's like if I can just focus on this for, give me 10 minutes, like can
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
so yeah, it's something that you kind of I think have to find your own, experiment with what works for your kids and what
Yes.
doesn't. um it's going to be harder in the winter time when the kids can't really go out and play. It's going to
Mhm.
be harder, you know for me, I do feel like they were a little bit harder when they were younger, or like, I feel like my 2-year-old's harder than my
Mm.
1-year-old right now, because the 1-year-old still takes a nap and the 2-year-old won't. And
Right. Right. Each age, yeah. And honestly, it depends on the child and child's personality too. Yes,
yeah, definitely.
totally.
But one thing that I will say, like for me, my mother-in-law was really able to help with my 2 boys when they were really young, and they were the only grandchildren. But as I kept having kids, and then my husband is one of 6, and so then everybody else had kids, and now since I kind of had older kids, I felt like, and then her health kind of has gotten bad, and so there hasn't been this like help that
Mhm.
I used to be able to receive when my boys were younger. And so that was a big deal. And I think I had to finally realize that when my health got so bad, that it was like, okay, this like I actually do not have the physical energy to meet the demands of the day.
Right.
Like my body is so depleted, and it's trying to nurse a child, and then it was pregnant. And
Mhm.
so my body immediately when I got pregnant, it was like no, like it could not keep up with nursing and pregnancy. And so I quickly had was, which, we were at about 10 months. So she made it a good while.
Mhm.
Um, but um, I've realized nursing takes a toll on my body. And I learned through these last 2 pregnancies how much more energy that our bodies need
Mhm.
just milk compared to
Right.
pregnancy. I mean, it's like
Right.
way more. We need way more food, way more nutrients,
Right.
everything. And it's interesting. Like you grew up with animals. I find this so interesting, especially because when we moved here to the little cabin, it was like we were learning all the homestead things, and watching all the videos, and it's like over and over again. And I knew this growing up, like, oh, that's a lactating cow, or that's a lactating pig, or that's a lactating dog, or whatever. It's like you knew to pour the feed to those animals.
Right.
It wasn't,
Mhm.
but like for some reason we're humans and we don't have that mindset. I don't know. It's just
Right.
interesting how we don't go there with moms,
Right.
and that lack of care and postpartum care and postpartum nutrients and ancient wisdom that
Mhm.
been needed for all these years is gone all of a sudden,
Right.
only for human mammals, not the
Yeah.
rest of the
Yeah.
mammals in the world. Um, and so, that's become another just passion of mine, is just the health side of it. And so while it's
Yeah.
not like in written form in my course, like I naturally just bring it in.
Mhm.
Um, through conversations like this, like when we meet one on one, or if you sign it one on one or in the group mentorship. And we like that's kind of the number one thing that I address, even before we address the spiritual and emotional, because like if your physical body is not even in a place where it can, like I couldn't even hear God
Yeah.
in such a depleted physical place.
Yeah.
And then I would just get so angry. I got very, very, very bitter towards God. Like,
Mm.
why did you make us this way? Like, women, as a woman, I got really, really bitter at God for making us, wiring us the way that we do, to have cycles the way that we do. Like, I'm sorry, what? How are we? Really, honestly, think about it. Like, an ancient, think about the Hebrew women. Like, they were actually away from their husbands for 2 weeks at a time every month.
Right.
I mean, I'm like, "This is insane." Like, that doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
I really had to, like, and I'm still wrapping my brain around that one. But they didn't see it as a bad thing. They didn't
Right.
see it as a curse, or,
Right.
they didn't see it that way. And so, unfortunately, it's just our culture that has allowed us to see it that way,
Yeah.
and caused the negativity
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah.
Uh, and
It's very interesting. I'm like going back to your course. of inner healing. I love that you used something that you were like going through, struggling with, and then something that you overcame and gave it to the Lord and allowed that process to be turned into a course. And
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to be said there for anyone, like even like this is what the channel is about, is like stay-at-home moms, like what can you do? That's a perfect place to start, is what's your story?
Yeah.
Whether or not you're completely free from that, whether or not you're completely successful in that area, whether or not you've completely like overcome in that area, just start
Yeah.
figuring out how to create a course out of that, because the fact is that we are not the only ones that go through whatever we go through. We're not the only ones. And so, that would be my encouragement, because like you were saying, I just love that about what you did, that you took something that you've been involved in, and then like you said, your kind of like your B plan is, postpartum, things like that, things that you've also walked through. And so, that would be my encouragement, is like, what's your story?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking to you, Cassie, because you're already doing it, but what is your story? Like, where do you find yourself, whether you've overcome a little bit or striving towards or working towards, put that into a course. And so I was going to ask, how you said your course is 7 weeks long. Okay. And how long did it take you to create that?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. It took me a couple of months to
Okay.
write because I put it in booklet form. Um, Gosh, I'm trying to remember now because it's been a couple of years.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, it was birthed really through a family trauma that we went through, and just experiencing a lot of hurt through something that I like. We felt like God had called us to do something, and then all of a sudden it was a no, and it involved an adopted son. And so one side of the family, well, both sides of the family, but the Christian side of the family is what really like hurt me. And so really having to walk out that forgiveness and really having to walk out allowing the Lord to speak those truths and allow and I'll say like that happened almost 5 years ago now. And just, I can honestly say, like, it took me until really this last Christmas to get to finally process some of the last few things
Mm,
that didn't make sense in my brain, for my heart and my mind to finally kind of like gain clarity on something and kind of see something as an outsider looking in
yeah.
rather than someone that's just caught up in all of the chaos that was going on and that happened. And so inner healing it is just that, like, it is a process. It's not a destination. We can't just
Mhm.
to our timeline. We want to be here by this time because we don't know how long it's going to take for our heart and our mind to catch up and process and
Yeah.
go through all of the onion layers and things like that. And there's gaslighting along the way that, like, unfortunately you took one step forward and two steps back,
Right.
and just because other people don't understand and they don't understand your journey and why it's taking you so long to get over it, and
Yeah.
things. And so having to then forgive those kinds of things along the way.
Yeah,
I think that
absolutely.
I don't, that didn't I kind of veered away from your question of like how long it took me to write the course, but it's hard for me um, to say because I just remember having like a gung ho. I'm ready to sit down and write this thing, and then I was working with two other women and trying to also like, I need y'all to show up right now because I've got this idea flowing and I'm ready to do it, and having to wait on them and their schedules and what was going on in their lives as well. And so um, that's eventually why they took the course and I took the course, and we agreed
Mhm.
to go separate ways because I could see like I'm ready to run with this thing. And
Yeah, that's so
um,
great. So one question really quick. Okay, so how do you make time for home, mentoring, other people are in your mentorship and then maintaining your relationship with Jesus, are you a type A person? Are you just kind of like, oh, I have 10 minutes by myself. I'm going to go read my Bible. Like, how do you balance all that?
Yeah. Um, every day looks different for sure. The weather is nice this week. We're coming out of winter. And so this week was like, we are doing no school books. We're not sitting in the house doing school books. My son has had this idea to make a floating dock for a while now. And so I was like, you know what? We've got all the materials. I'm going to make sure you have all the tools you need. And that's what we're doing this week. And so
Mhm.
not afraid to like lay down the school books and go pick up a project like that.
Yeah.
I've also learned to kind of flow with my cycle, like really stay in tune with my body. Like, do I
Mhm.
really have the energy for this today? Do I really? And I find that I have seasons or weeks where like I absolutely do not want to be on social media. I don't want to be in emails. I don't want to be in those things. And so I really learned to like ask myself, like, I don't know, just stay in that intuition, I guess,
Yeah.
of like, what am I really feeling this week? Because as I've learned, now that I'm like in my mid 30s, late 30s, I've finally learned to like, I guess, flow with my cycle. It's like, okay, where have we been? Ancient wisdom again is
Yeah.
just out the
Yeah.
door. And so usually our day looks like I usually am taking the little ones to daycare, and then coming home by about 9 o'clock and starting school with the 5-year old, the 10 and 11-year old. And then it depends. Like, it's really kind of important for us to get done before lunch because I feel like if we don't get done before lunch, we don't do it.
Mhm.
Um, unless it's just
I
a
like that
really,
too.
yeah. If it's a really dreary day and I absolutely don't have anything else to do after lunch, um, then we
Yeah.
might come to it, just read a book or like whatever we have left.
Yeah.
Uh, but after lunch, it's like I am like, okay, now it's time for me to work on like my course or get into my emails or
Yeah.
social media, whatever. I can like do something
Yeah.
to work towards my business each day. And then I'm trying to fit in workouts and prepare dinner. So each day is different, but I think that I also know as women, I've learned this and given myself grace. Like, it's okay when I don't feel like doing the certain things every
Mhm.
single because it's actually how we as women are wired. That's how God created us. Our chores or adventures or like whatever we get into each day is supposed to look drastically different.
Mhm.
And so giving into that, because there's also weeks where it's like, okay, this week I really feel like being in the kitchen.
Mhm.
Um, and so, having to just kind of be like, okay, like I have to just kind of give into that sometimes and be like, okay, this is what's bringing me joy and life and energy right now compared
Yes.
to sitting down at a computer and writing the emails
And I
feels
think
draining.
it's super important to listen to your body. Like you said, like there are some days that I'm just like, I need to be in the garden right now. Or, you know what? I need to be in the kitchen and meal prep for a couple of weeks or for a week or like, can something or experiment or something like that. And then I realized that I needed that for myself. Yeah. So listening to your body and yeah, that's very super important.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I had one last question, but this is actually my very last question. How can people reach you, your resources, your course, if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, so I'll have to give you the links to put in the notes below because you really can't access my course yet from my Facebook or from my website. I'm
Okay.
working on that. But you can go to cassiehutton.com and at least get in contact with me there. Otherwise, just click the links that Kelly puts in the show notes. But I'm also on Instagram at barefootfaith.com. Barefoot Faith is my handle, but it's spelled BEAR like a mama barefoot faith. So a play on words there, like the wild and free spirit plus the mama bear in
Yeah,
us. So I think that like
that's great.
definitely speaks to a lot of homeschool moms out there. Um, and then also my Facebook group is where I'm really a little bit more active and really trying to pour into the ladies that are in the Facebook group. And
Okay.
so, and the Facebook group is called the Maid I always get it wrong. The Made Whole Community for Christian Women, Saved, Healed, Delivered. And I'll also send you that link so that they can find it easily.
Okay. Well, thank you, Cassie. So Cassie is the creator of Made Whole. It's an online mentorship. Like you said, like she said, you can go to her Facebook page, her website. She'll have that up and running and everything. Okay. One last question. Is your house messy or clean right now?
It's so messy. Because we now are in a 2 bedroom. We added on a second bedroom.
Okay.
So the bedroom is always dirty because there's 5 kids in there.
Yeah.
But right now, my kids have been playing in my bedroom all morning. I'm looking at underwear on the bed. I'm looking at jackets. I'm like looking at the broken tablet that somehow came out of the
Yeah.
case today. I'm looking at wet towel over here. So
Yes. I just had to throw that out there because people need to realize that you're going to have to give yourself grace when you're building something. And home, we are constantly running the dishwasher because we cook a lot of home cooked meals and everybody's in there, cooking now. And so we run it at least 3 or 4 times a day, if not more. I'm going to be honest. And on top of that, I have a big pile of vitamins and supplements literally 1 foot away from me. So it is real life. My house, I wouldn't say that it's dirty, like filthy, but it definitely gets messy and it definitely gets cluttered and everything. So people just need to know that that is real life. That's just real life. Cassie, thank you so much for coming on. And I really appreciate it. Guys, if you enjoy that, why don't you click subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications next time a video is up. Until next time, keep doing what you're doing.